Welcome back to Hot Route Takes. I am your host, Chase Owens, along with my good friends and co hosts, Brian Sarber and Christian Mills. This is the NFL Week 17 take episode. We've already done our preview. If you guys have not checked that out, please go back and listen to that for our game picks, as well as a little bit of a recap of Week 16 and the key games from that week. This episode, we've just got some different ideas, propositions. We want to bounce off each other and just get an open debate going on where we land on certain topics. So I think, Brian, you have a pretty hot button topic you want to touch on. If you want to lead us off here, and we'll kind of just open the floor.
Yeah, so there was a game this past weekend for two quarterbacks that were both looking to up their stock, if you will, or prove that they're the guy for their respective team. And it's a quarterback, talking about the quarterback position, and it is Kyler Murray for the Arizona Cardinals and Justin Fields for the Chicago Bears. My question is, it's a two-part question. Which quarterback has a better chance of being retained by their current team?
Christian, you want to go?
I will say Justin Fields, but I will say this also. Both guys I honestly see moving on from their teams just because Chicago, new GM. I think their coach is probably gone after this year. If not, I'll be surprised. And then with the Cardinals, I mean, we've seen them, new coach. New GM. He's left with all the personal matters they had going on in their building. So I just think both places, you know how it works in the NFL. You get a new GM in, it ain't about who is there. It's my time to bring my guys.
He wants his guy, yeah.
So I think, this draft, we ain't really dug deep into it, but I mean, there's maybe one guy would take over maybe both of those guys, but that's just, me, not an NFL scout, just quick glancing. So, if I was those franchises, I'd keep both of them for at least another year, but honestly, I just see them both moving on now, getting it done and over with. I will say Kyler Murray, I think he'll just be what you can get, but Justin Fields, you can maybe get some value for. I think Chicago, that's what they're looking for more than anything, is getting some values, redoing the whole team, new coaching. So, both of them be gone. Justin Fields would be the more than likely to stay if I had to pick one.
That's interesting. I kind of lean the opposite way, and it's not to do anything with the players. It's more so as where this draft board's about to fall. And it looks like Carolina has locked up the number one pick for Chicago. And Caleb Williams being the generational type quarterback that he has been hyped up to be, it just seems like you can't afford to take anyone but him with the number one pick. So Chicago trading Justin Fields seems like a viable option. And I would love to see him go to a team like Atlanta minus Arthur Smith and let him cook with those weapons. I don't know what other teams could get into that Justin Fields trade stakes, but I think he should be a wanted commodity because he is a NFL caliber starter. He's proven with the Bears getting that defense right in the second half of the year that he's more than capable to lead a winning football team. When you get to Kyler Murray, it looks like they're going to be drafting in that 3 to 5 range, maybe. And just off the top of my head, we're not big time college football followers, but I know Drake May has been listed. Yes. Any other top QBs that could be a top 10 pick? I've yet to see anyone.
Daniels.
Maybe. Daniels, okay.
Yeah, maybe.
And he's the Heisman winner. He's very, very raw. I would comp him, if there is a comp, to the project of Anthony Richardson, who he was, and he was obviously a top pick, but Jaden's much smaller and a lot
He's
more
a
things.
Pure passer, though. Not maybe the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Polished, but he is definitely a better passer, naturally.
Yeah. If he sneaks in the top 10, but at the same time, I don't think Arizona wants to spend a number 3 pick on him. I don't even know if they want to spend a number 3 pick on Drake May and hope he's better than Kyler Murray, because I don't think Kyler Murray's bad. I really don't. I could see him staying and just get a year, get healthy in the offseason, actually be able to work out and train the right way in the offseason. And Arizona just gives him one more year of okay, let's prove some things and see what you're really about for our future. If you're the guy, we'll keep you in house. If not, we'll really look at the next year's draft. But for me, it's going to just boil down to the draft board. Justin Fields seems like a really good guy to build around, but if it was anyone other than Caleb Williams coming out this draft class and being the number one pick, I could see Chicago sticking with Justin, but that just seems like a guy you can't pass up. So I would imagine they flirt his name in trade talks all the way up till draft day even.
Yeah. So I think it's rare you get the opportunity to have the first pick and it not even be your pick. Like you're not the worst team in the NFL and you're getting it because you have someone else's pick. So that's a incredibly unique opportunity to really, I think they should take advantage of this if they do believe in one of these prospects, either Caleb Williams or, some people have flirted around and put Drake May up there. I know before the season started, I was really high on Caleb Williams. And I've came down a little bit because he didn't have the season that many people were expecting and people were hyping up to be. Drake May's kind of caught up to him a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily 1A, 1B, but it's a lot closer than originally people thought it was going to be. That being said, I think that if they like either one of those quarterbacks, I think they need to clean house personally with the GM, coaching staff, all of that, and kind of restart there. And when that happens, guys want to pick their guy. So I think that's probably more likely than not at this point. That being said, Justin Fields, I think, can really catch on somewhere. I know Atlanta is a team you mentioned. I think that Arthur Smith, if he is to stay there, you can build a pretty dynamic ground attack with Bijan Robinson, Justin Fields. If, he can quarterback touches the ball on every play. So he can't misuse that playmaker. You know what I mean? He could, but then Kyler Murray, I think he is positioned to actually get an opportunity, in my opinion, because if you're not in the top guy range, like your number one guy, I can definitely see them sticking with Kyler Murray, former number one overall pick, has a contract extension. It's going to be much harder to trade Kyler Murray than it is going to be to trade Justin Fields. So I'm going to go with probably Justin Fields gets traded, still on his rookie contract. And they go with one of these top-tier quarterbacks. The Cardinals probably unsure that the second guy that comes off the board is going to be better than Kyler Murray. They stick with him and then build around Kyler Murray. I can see that happening. But the other part of the question is, who's better right now? Who would you rather have on your football team?
I'd take Justin. I think he's grown, but by no means is that disrespect to Kyler Murray. I think he's a very overhated quarterback. He's been dynamic. He hasn't put together the full season that we know he can because he shows those flashes. And we've talked about this really ad nauseum when we're doing the quarterback rankings. Just the type of guy that plays two different games in one game in a 60-minute span. First half look incredible. Second half just not be there. And it's puzzling, but the talent is undeniable. I think he's a lot better than some of the teams that has rolled out these rookie quarterbacks this year that really are just a QB away, a playmaker away from getting guys like Devontae Adams the ball. That could be dynamic. You just imagine them in different scenarios. It's mouth-watering because I think he's a heck of a passer of the ball and athlete, but that said, Justin Fields just keeps making strides for me. He looks so bad. Remember when we were all talking in recap episodes the first 4 weeks of the year? All we could talk about was how bad Justin Fields was playing, and it was puzzling because we thought he was the next guy to take that next leap and establish himself as a top 10 quarterback. And he really put that poor play behind him and just started to get that connection with DJ Moore and trust that solid tight end and Cole Kmet and find him getting the ball. Those are his only two guys to really make plays for him, and he's still he's winning games thanks to that defense and taking care of the ball. That's really all he needed to do was get those guys the ball, take care of the ball. He's done that, and I think he still has a lot of room to grow, so I think he's a better player right now.
Yeah, I think Fields on the ground is a difference maker. He's still growing in the pass game, but he can get there, and if he gets there, we're looking at a dynamic player. That's my opinion on him. I think he can be very dynamic. Lamar Jackson-esque, if you will, really.
Yeah, I mean, out of both those guys, I agree with Chase. You take Justin Fields, I think one younger, but we hadn't really seen what he could do with like your real weapons. And I think Kyler Murray, I will say this, like Chase said, hinted towards it, but there has been, locker room problems with Kyler Murray. There has been comments made about, Call of Duty and all that. What is that? Justin Fields, we've never heard anything negative. At least I hadn't. It may be snuck by the radar of me, but I've never heard a negative anything on Justin Fields, at least in the NFL. So I think locker room guy, the potential's there. The running game, adding him to it, and we see when Chicago actually has a decent O-line play, what he can do when he's added to the running game. So I think you get him with the right coach, or even like what they're doing with Philly, what they're doing with the Colts now when they do have a runner in. Get him with the right coach, like Chase is saying. And I think this guy's going to do a lot more for you than Kyler Murray can. Granted, I ain't saying Kyler Murray's nowhere close to Justin Fields. There's things Kyler Murray does better than Justin Fields, but the NFL's at this point to me is dynamic. That's what you want in your players. You want who can give me the most options, the most things I could do. And at this moment in time, it's mobile quarterbacks. So, I mean, to me, Justin Fields, I will also like to add, I mean, is it really crazy enough to think that they would stay with Justin Fields and maybe trade away that number one pick? Or is that something y'all hadn't really gave much thought to?
I think if I was in his position, in the GM's position, that's what I would want to do. But I just think
you could
the hype
trade
around
it
Caleb Williams
to-
pick him.
trade it, get a veteran player, and then you get your 3 pick to get you a young weapon to add to Justin Fields and use that first pick for a veteran defensive player, help your defense out, get a guy that you're not going to have to worry about, throw out there like we did, already see them do with Sweat. Why not trade for another veteran on that end to really lock this defense up for the next couple of years and just go offensively?
I like that. I also like the idea of leveraging the fact that you have the number one overall pick and pretty much are guaranteed Caleb Williams and trading that for a just, ransom.
Star.
of
Yes.
Oh,
draft
yeah, you
picks.
get – I would think you could, like you're saying, dangle it. Hey, this is what you're going to get. So I think teams like, I mean, not Washington now. I think after trading all their defensive pieces, there's nothing really there. But there's a couple teams that you could say need a franchise quarterback that would be more than happy, I think, to give you a star piece off their defense.
I mean, just look at the haul they got from Carolina to trade up and get Bryce Young. And
Yeah.
I know Bryce Young, he wasn't the consensus number one overall pick. There was talk of CJ Stroud, other guys. Caleb Williams is like, he's been talked about as the lock for number one since last year's draft class.
Yep.
So if you can dangle that and get that type of haul, I know Carolina's front office is a whole different story, but getting any QB desperate, hungry team to pony up and get yourself some real draft capital and another star, DJ Moore-esque star for the offense or defense, whichever side you decide to go on, is a viable move in my opinion, because Justin Fields has shown you the second half. He's more than capable of winning games with the right pieces around him, and he's still going to grow.
Well, that's all I got for that one, guys.
I like it. I think Kyler, Justin Fields, both borderline like top 10 guys. Just need a little bit more security, stability, really around
Stability.
them. And
Yep.
I would be watching both of them major in the offseason and next season, hopeful that either of them can make that jump and realize their potential. They both have potential through the roof. Christian, you got any last comment there?
Yeah, I was trying to think of a team that would do it. And, I really did think not that long. And why wouldn't the
Falcons
Raiders
did.
do it? No, the Raiders. You have Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. You have, Max Crosby. Then after that, why not? Devontae Adams hadn't been that. It's been complaining that he's there now. You could really get rid of a piece that's not good for your locker room and then have a franchise guy with, other than Denver at this point now, hearing the Russell Wilson news. But, hey, we got us a franchise guy now, and I think the Raiders hadn't had one of those since, who? You can argue Derek Carr, but I think that's the best place to really, hey, we got the first pick. Come on down. You're in Las Vegas. You're playing with house money. Come get this first-round pick and the number
No,
one
I agree
pick.
with you 100%, Christian. I think that's a great place because the biggest thing that was holding him back is not there anymore. Josh McDaniels, and they go with Antonio Pierce, a player's coach. I mean, golly, I think that could be a great fit for Fields and
I'd
Josh
hate to see it.
Jacobs.
Don't do it.
Downhill rushing attack.
Don't do
Devontae
it.
Adams is still there.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
man,
agree.
I'm for that.
I like it. I like the question. I like the topic there, Brian. Christian, you want to move us along, get us on a different topic here to discuss?
If you want to, Chase, you could take it, man.
Yeah. I've got one. It's rather short. Maybe we can extend it if we need to, but just a player, and I'm going to throw it out there as the most underrated player in football. While I'm reading off his stats, maybe y'all can think around of guys you may consider underrated and the most overlooked in the NFL, because there's a number of guys. The guy I'm teasing is for my own team, so obviously I'm a little biased of like, I don't feel like this guy gets the recognition he does, but there's a guy like that for every team. So it's a matter of arguing your cause for each case. This first guy, I'm just going to reel off some of the stats. He's got 12 sacks, career high this year. He has 32 hurries from pressuring the quarterback, 32 tackles, a career high. His tackle miss percentage is below 10%, nearly a career low since his rookie year. And he's just aligning everywhere on the defensive line, but mostly at defensive tackle. So think about 12 sacks as an interior defensive lineman. That's Justin Madubuike. I think he is the most underrated pass rusher in the NFL. There's not a guy blowing the roof off the place right now with sacks. And this guy just tied Aaron Donald's record for most consecutive games with at least half a sack, getting to 11 games. That was broken last week against San Francisco. But he's been the model of consistency. And I'm telling you, I don't think there's a player that's made more money for himself than him this year. He's in a contract year, and he's always had that raw talent. But the Ravens, they rotate defensive linemen so much on defense. He's shown his spurts, and he's shown the potential in small cases. But with them moving on from Calais Campbell, opened the door for a few more snaps for him, and he's really capitalized. His pass rush moves have just taken a big step this year, and his grading and defensive overall PFF grade. Let me pull these things up. Career highs across the board. Overall 74.6 defensive grade, 66.6 run defense, career high, 77.6 pass rush grade as an interior defensive lineman. That's got to be, I don't have the league leaders, but I would imagine as interior defensive lineman among the best, just unheard of from that position. So just want to show him some love. I think he's very underrated. I think he's about to get paid. And the Ravens defense is obviously one of the best. And you got free agents to be and Madubuike and Patrick Queen and Geno Stone as well. You might end up losing one of those guys, if not both, because they're both going to get paid. I lean more to keeping Madubuike because interior pass rush is so hard to find. So that's my guy, most underrated in NFL, according to me. If either of y'all have a opposing player that you think is a little bit more underrated, I'd love to hear, or even your thoughts on Madubuike and the season he's having himself.
As far as the Madubuike goes, I think that it's awesome development for you guys, and I think learning under Calais Campbell also helps for that. And then just being under the same defensive scheme 2 years in a row for a young player also helps for that. Plus, the scheme I think is a good fit for him. I think that's an awesome development for the Ravens, though, because I think you guys needed someone to kind of take that step on the defensive line, especially after drafting, using some pretty high draft capital on two guys,
Odafe Owe.
Odafe Owe, and then you guys spend a second-round pick on a Jabo.
Ojabo, yeah. Yep. The year he got hurt before, which he was a first-round guy, but he fell to us, and he's really been hurt this year. So, like you said, Madubuike stepping up. It's huge for us.
Yep. I did have a guy I thought was pretty underrated on Miami side of things, and that's Raheem Mostert, man. I mean, he's had a phenomenal season. He's 31 years old. Who would have saw it coming? But also, who's to say this doesn't continue? You know what I mean? Like, this guy could stick around. He didn't have a ton of tread on the tires, and he is fourth in NFL in rushing yards and first in touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty awesome. 31-year-old back.
I think Miami's ground game in particular is just an underrated aspect because the offense is a top unit, but the only thing that gets talked about on the offense is the receivers and Tua, and they're failing to neglecting to mention the dynamic run game because that wasn't the case last year. We previewed that in the season
Yeah.
preview for Miami, and they have really found some things in the different concepts they've run this year. And Mostert and Achane have just hit the nail on the head and really been solid all year. I would agree with you. Very underrated player.
I don't know if it's most underrated in the league, but it's one that came to mind. But
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't going to do it, but because Brian went down his little road that he chose, man, I'm going to go with Khalil Mack, man. My guy got 15 sacks. He's got more than Mason Crosby, Josh Allen, Myles Garrett, Michael Parsons. I understand he did have the one big game with like 6 or 7 sacks, but now we've been talking weeks in, weeks out without Joey Bosa, and he's still getting his. So, underrated. I'm going to go with Khalil Mack. I understand it's been a bad season, so ultimately it doesn't matter, but I'm going to show the old man some love since, he is getting half our salary cap anyway.
Well, I feel like
Go ahead, Chase, man.
I was just gonna say, like, obviously Khalil Mack's been great for so long, so he's known how good he is. But the season he's having, what you're touching on, is getting really lost in the wayside because
I
of
agree. Yeah.
the year the
Yeah.
Chargers have had. And when you look, if the Chargers were better, he'd be in Defensive Player of the Year conversations because he's putting up sack numbers with the best of them, and he's just getting pressures each and every week with no help since Bosa's been hurt. So, very underrated year he's having. I would agree, Christian.
And another
So,
guy I
Griffin.
will say who I was really going to say was Jonathan Greenyard, Houston Texans, on the opposite end of Will Anderson. Went and
Good
drafted
pull.
a DN, and then this guy's really stepped up since he's had his moment on the field. So, shout out to him. We don't talk about a lot of Houston defensive guys, but want to say, he is, 12.5 sacks on the year. Kind of impressive to me for a guy that, I'm not going to lie to you, didn't know him until this year.
Good pull. Yeah, if I didn't have a Texans fan in my life that really pumped him up, all I ever heard from my friend was that he had all the tools but just couldn't stay on the field. And now he's been healthy, and you partner that with Will Anderson. I still was thinking a home run of a pick for Houston. Houston defense. We talked about C.J. Stroud probably ad nauseum throughout this season, but that young defense is something to look forward to for Texans fans as well because they got players all over the field.
Yes, I agree. Christian, do you think you guys move on from either Bosa or Mack after the season?
I hope one of them, just because salary cap. Like one of them, like they're like up there on the cap board. So I think the young guy we got, Tua, however you say it, Hawaiian guy. Since he's got production since Joey Bosa's been out, he's actually a bright star I'd like to see on the field more. But I know if both of those guys are on the team, we're never going to really see his potential. So, we drafted him last year. Love to see him on the field more. So that's where I would go. But I don't know what we're going to do because I don't know who's wanting to accept those kind of cap numbers for an edge guy.
Maybe somebody.
It's pass rush is a hot commodity. Honestly, you can never have enough of them, and if you find a difference maker available, a lot more often than not, you can get a pretty decent haul for it. So I would agree with you, Christian. Hopefully, they do something in that department because you can spread the wealth a little bit more throughout the rest of the defense. I would hope next season. So. That's it for underrated players. Christian, do you have anything maybe to finish us up on this podcast?
Yeah, we can do it quick, but just they don't have to be locked into the playoffs. But if you had to pick two teams, you could be on either side to kind of what team you think if they do sneak in, or you can say they're gonna make it, kind of make more noise than what you would expect them to. If you had maybe you only have one team that you could say, hey, if they make it, they'll make more noise than what people are giving them.
I got one.
If you had to pick two, you can say kind of reason, I guess, why, and then pick your two and go with it, or you just list a team and we just won't say nothing and we just give, hey, we don't agree or agree with you. I have two, but I'd like to hear y'all's first to see if we agree.
I think I know who y'all probably going to get, and we might have the same ones. It's the Rams and the Bills. I
like the Rams pull.
Yeah. And that offense just being electric as it has been. And having defensive pieces, having a coach that's been there, done that, I think that's huge. And then on the Bills side of things, I mean, I'm a Dolphins fan, but like, you got to give Josh Allen credit, dude. Like, this dude is a good enough player that he can give his team a chance week in and week out. Even on a bad night, the dude is capable of incredible plays. So if he's in the playoffs, I don't want to play him.
Okay. I'm gonna agree with you on the Rams. For me, I'm scared of the Bills 100%. I think they're a
Yeah.
great team, but I think they're getting almost like they're getting talked about. Like they're probably the second or third. They're probably the third favorite in the AFC behind Miami and Baltimore. I think they've leapfrogged. According to what I've been hearing and just seeing on Twitter and all these things, I think more teams are scared of Buffalo than Kansas City right now.
We're talking
So
about like seeding purposes being like sneaking
yeah, they're
in, but
definitely they're going to be a lower seed. They could be traveling to Arrowhead Wild Card Weekend, but I don't think that necessarily mean they would be underdogs according to the betting line. So thinking along those lines, I'm going to go with the Rams, and I'm actually going to go Jacksonville. I think they've looked terrible last 4 weeks. Like
They
I know
have.
they've looked terrible, but they literally just got to stop turning the ball over. Like Trevor Lawrence is really good, and when Trevor Lawrence is hot, I think he's the type of quarterback that can win a game by himself in the playoffs, and that's what I look for in playoff football. If he just cleans up the turnovers, the defense isn't a sorry unit by any means. They've got playmakers and on the edge with Josh Allen and Walker's stepped up these last few weeks, and the rest of that unit's not terrible. They are very opportunistic. I believe they're first or second in the league in
Yeah, they're up there.
takeaways this year. So just take care of the ball on the offensive side, and I think they can at least win a first round matchup, whoever that may be, if they win the division and they pull Cleveland or I don't know, Indy, whoever it may come in the wild card. And then second round, they could give Baltimore and Miami a run for their money as long as they're taking care of the football.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I went totally different than y'all. I agree with the Rams, definitely Buffalo, but I kind of aimed on two teams that I think, are really underdog stories. And that's one, Chase is going to probably say he will agree that if this team, they 100% is going to get in, and that's the Cleveland Browns. I think if they sneak in, this is a team that can give a lot of teams trouble. The defense has been great. Just what we talked about, last spot. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. You want to hear it, go back and listen to it, but it's Joe Flacco and turnovers. He fixes that problem. They get the running game going, and Amari Cooper can stay healthy. Cleveland Browns is a team I feel like a lot of teams are going to kind of sleep on. Maybe you can say it's the old Browns, and that's kind of maybe be their mentality. But this is a different Cleveland team this year. Would not believe I'd say Joe Flacco is leading them to the playoffs, but that's what it's looking like. Then on the other side, I did pick, Tampa Bay. I think, we kind of gave them a lot of trash in the offseason, but I think this team's honestly better than what they were with Tom Brady. They definitely that last year, I won't say for the Super Bowl run, but the defense has all the same pieces almost. You might be missing one or two guys from that Super Bowl run, but offensively, Baker Mayfield, he plays like this and go to the playoffs, and White keeps up what he's doing. They get him maybe more involved in the rushing attack instead of so much in the passing attack. I think the Bucks can really surprise. I won't say they'll make it far, but just a surprise. I think round one, they can surprise somebody and get a win, and you go, how did Tampa Bay pull that off?
I really like the Cleveland pool, Christian. I almost said them myself because I still think their defense is them or Baltimore. I'd probably lean Cleveland has the best defense in football. And the numbers back that up according to DVOA. They just got playmakers galore. And I think Myles Garrett is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate and probably the best pass rusher in all of football for my money. He is just a freak of an athlete, wreaks havoc every game. So that side of the ball, I really feel good about going into postseason play. But for me, the only thing that scares me is the O-line and how they hold up. They have to be better running the ball in the playoffs. And Joe Flacco is not, he's probably he's going to be the least mobile playoff quarterback. Any team with a good pass rush that gets after him, that can spell disaster for the Cleveland offense. So if the trenches play well in Cleveland, I could see them making an AFC championship run because the Ravens have lost 3 games this year. 2 of them, Pittsburgh, Indy, they shot themselves in the foot. That third one, Cleveland just came back and they out physicaled them. They're a great team, man. And they don't get talked about a lot in this been because of the injuries and the QB carousel, but I think they're a really good football team.
Yeah. So I like the Cleveland pool. I do. I think Joe Flacco could have maybe, I don't want to go too far out of my way here, but he had a
Okay.
crazy playoff run with Baltimore. I don't know if you
I
guys
remember.
remember. I mean, Chase,
Oh,
obviously.
I
He had
remember
a
that one.
crazy playoff run. I remember Jacoby Jones streaking down the sideline and Flacco throwing 50, 60-yard bombs, dude. Like, Flacco could have a crazy run and be an incredible story for the Browns, but it's really the defense that makes their money over there in Cleveland. And I do agree that if they do play a team with a good pass rush, eventually they'll have to see a Baltimore, a Miami even. I think the pass rush get after them. But I maybe am the Debbie Downer here on the Bucks. I don't know if they can compete with the top guys in the NFC. Like, I just don't. And
Well,
playoff
if they're going to
football.
win the division, they're going to be the 4 seed if they win
They
the
go
division.
against Dallas, man. And
I would not pick them against Dallas. Yeah, man. I just thought about that. Obviously, Dallas or Philly is going to be the top wild card. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be hard pressed to pick Tampa. If they were playing the Rams or Seahawks, that 6 or 7 wild card, I could see them winning that game. But Dallas and Philly's are there. Now, how funny would it be though for Tampa to beat Dallas? And as good as Dallas has looked, I'm telling you, I'd pick Dallas if we're picking right now. I'd probably pick them by a touchdown. But I would not be shocked to see Dak Prescott travel to Tampa in the playoffs and just throw 3 picks
Lay
to
an
that
egg.
defense and lay an egg. Yes, I really would not. And I've
Facts.
praised Dallas all year, but that's just the way.
That'd be so Cowboys. I did have the second one, and it's not a long one, and it was just something I wanted to point out. It's something we had talked about before, but you kind of mentioned it earlier. Maybe it was in the pre-show, but Brock Purdy and Tua's play style and how those offenses are different. And so Brock Purdy hangs on to the ball for about league average time, okay? And they have a bunch of different weapons. And their heat map is very similar as far as it's hot on the sides and it's hot in the center. They like to attack the middle of the field. Where it is different and where Tua's skill set is unique and you can't find it is he's able to push the ball down the field at a higher clip and get the ball out much quicker. And so in doing so, he's also able to read first, second, third reads quickly. So it's the quick processing, accuracy, and anticipation to get the ball down the field with speed. So I think that difference, that discrepancy, the only reason I'm bringing it up is because the PFF podcast talked about it, and they were highlighting the differences in getting the ball out quick and what that does for an offense, including helping the offensive line, getting the receivers more consistent touches, and being able to scheme up more things, but also helps the quarterback stay healthy. So it's like a triple whammy. It does a lot of good for an offense versus the Brock Purdy does hang on to the ball a little bit more. He's different in Jimmy Garoppolo as in he can operate well within structure, but then he adds an element after the play's not there and can extend and be creative and push the ball down the field. That's an element Tua does not have. So their play styles are different in several facets. And so when people say, oh, they're game managers and they're just like the same player, they are not the same player. And I say Tua is a better player and he's more unique, but just wanted to point it out.
So, any question for us or a stance you want us to That's it.
I just wanted
Tua's better
point
than Brock
out.
Purdy. Is what
I
you're
do
saying.
think so, and I think they're different players, and they're not game managers. They're difference makers, both of them, in my opinion. I don't think they could operate in every scheme, but what he does bring to their respective offense does elevate the offense. It's not like plug and play. That's all I had to say, though. So any thoughts, comments, concerns?
Go ahead, Christian.
Why, man? Why does Brock Purdy always got to come out your mouth? Nah, I will say this, though. I think you can maybe switch both of them and they would have success in both systems. I really do think that. I mean, you would disagree. You know more about Miami's system, but I think both of these guys, you can maybe plug and play in both of their systems. They'd have success. I think Brock Purdy, if he would have to throw it quick, I think that's just Kyle Shanahan's system. It's not that. And I think, with Tua, that is what they want to do. That's what Tua's great at. So I just think both of these teams know what they're great at and they use it to their advantages. But, I mean, I ain't gonna say one's better than the other just because Tua's health, Brock Purdy, the 4 interception game. A lot of people are gonna jump on the Tua train now, but before then it was all Brock Purdy. So I'm not gonna say who is the best right now. I'd like to see, definitely both of these guys go to
Playing
playoff
Baltimore this
football
week.
because I think it's going to come down to me. Playoff football, we've seen Brock Purdy in playoff football. See what happened to him on their run last year. Then now we've seen Tua hopefully in playoff football.
Yeah, I mean, two guys that just get comped so much because I think it's nothing to do with what Brian kind of hit on. Nothing to do with their play styles. It's what they have around them. They have the best wide receiver room in the NFL, both of them. I think Miami's is better. Tyreek Hill is the best for my money, him or Justin Jefferson. And then you get to San Fran, Ayuk and Debo are borderline top 10 guys. They're very dynamic, and they partner in Kittle, McCaffrey, just amazing supporting cast. So that's why they're often linked, and they're both not the strongest arm guys, but that's really the only trait I see that you're like is similar. Play styles, as Brian said, a lot different. So I would lean to his better. I think Brock Purdy just had his worst game as an NFL pro last week. He got beat by a good defense that made plays against him, but he by no means is he a bad quarterback. I think he's very much that borderline top 10 range. He's proved that all year. Tua, for me, he was already in the top 10 last year. I think he solidified that even more so, maybe even jumped up a couple spots for me. Just a heck of a QB. I think he's being overlooked in the MVP race. I'll say it. That's the talk this week is Lamar's taking the lead, and he's kind of got a grasp on that award right now. And I would agree he's the front runner. But if Tua goes big, or if Tyreek Hill goes big this week and goes into empty Bank Stadium and just takes that 1 seed from Baltimore, I think people would be remiss to not mention either of those guys for the MVP award because they've had great years.
Yeah, I agree with Chase. I think Lamar's front runner right now. We'll see what happens close the season. I think a lot of things. I'm not saying that, I really don't know. This weekend's a big weekend is all I'm saying. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
No, it's huge, huge weekend for this podcast, man. 2 great football teams, and Sunday at 1:00, I'm going to be stressed like no other, like it's a playoff game, because it basically is. If Baltimore wins and clinches that 1 seed, that's 1 less game you have to play. There's no longer, Brian, if we still had the old format of 6 teams and the first top 2 seeds got a first round bye, this would be for home field, but you could walk away losing being like, okay, at least we don't have to play wild card weekend. Yeah. It's not the case. If you don't win this game, you're probably playing first round against a team, say like Cleveland or Houston, with guys like a defense with Cleveland, or a QB with CJ Stroud that go in and upset you. You would be the favorite, but they can go in and upset you. And playoff football, you're going to be playing good teams. You can lose first round, even if you're the better roster. Like it's the most easy thing in the world. It's just such a crapshoot, I guess. But you got to play your best. Hopefully, both these teams play their best week 17, and we get a good matchup and a good watch for NFL audience. So that was a great pod. I love all the ideas, all the talking points. I appreciate you guys joining me. To our listeners, as always, please give us a follow on Twitter. I am at ChaseOwens96. Christian is at C_Mills241. Brian is at Sarver_Brian. Do us a favor, rate, review the podcast itself on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube videos, YouTube shorts. We have been seeing an increase of our YouTube views and stuff like that. So we appreciate you guys so much doing that for us. Continue to do so and grow the community, get the algorithm pumping. Any TikToks you see, leave us a comment on what we're discussing and whether you agree if any of these takes we've discussed today. What are your guys' opinions, and how do you feel about our teams and our chances on our MVP frontrunners and all these other things? We'd love to hear your thoughts and continue to grow this thing. But as always, guys, we appreciate you for tuning in. Until next time, peace out.
Joe Flacco's faster than Jared Goff.
I said.